Ciao, sono Francesco Taranto, benvenuti a Young Guns, la rubrica che si occupa di giovani talenti musicali italiani e internazionali. Nel caso di oggi un inglese, Newton Faulkner, cantautore con una tecnica molto particolare nel suonare la chitarra, perché la usa come una sorta di percussione. È diventato molto noto anche grazie alle sue cover, come quella di Teardrop dei Massive Attack, che su YouTube ha milioni di visualizzazioni, quella di Bohemian Rhapsody dei Queen, che ha eseguito davanti a 80.000 persone facendole ballare e saltare semplicemente grazie alla sua voce e alla chitarra. È uscito il suo quinto album e vediamo allora cosa ci ha raccontato in questa intervista e ascoltiamo qualcosa dallo showcase di Newton Faulkner.
Well, it's part of a whole school of playing now. There's loads of us. I'm trying to think, I think it must have started in kind of flamenco, and then I think Michael Hedges kind of adopted some of the techniques, and then, yeah, kind of ended up with loads of really interesting players doing fascinating things, and there's still like amazing players cropping up all over the place, which is, yeah, it's still kind of really exciting kind of little pocket of music. But very few songwriters use it. It's mainly kind of instrumentalists. It's quite geeky, to be honest. But I think if you mix it with songwriting and then also mix it with production as well, you can do some really interesting things. I really like co-writing. I just find it interesting because obviously I write with my brother a lot, and that's become so normal that I don't really notice anymore. But when you bring in someone else that neither of us know that's a good writer, it gets a bit more competitive. And I think we try and outdo each other. We try to come up with better ideas, and it just kind of, yeah, it kind of steps everything up a notch.
Love is a verb, love is a doer. Gentle impulsion shakes me, makes me lighter.
Covers, for me, have always been a really interesting thing because it's part of the guitar style. So a lot of the instrumentalists that play in the same way start out doing kind of covers and trying to play every part of the song in kind of one go. So that was obviously a huge part of my motivation at the beginning. So something like kind of Teardrop was very much kind of guitar led. It was about recreating the track on guitar, and then vocally I didn't really think about it that much. I was actually quite lucky that it turned out well. My favourite way of picking covers is just to ask the question kind of what should you not cover? What should you not touch? Which is partly how Teardrop came across. It was like, because you shouldn't mess with Teardrop. It's almost like kind of sacred thing, and I kind of like that. And then Bohemian Rhapsody came out of basically asking the question, what can you not physically cover? What could you never cover? What would be impossible? And someone said Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was like, cool, that's what I'm going to do next. Let's dig in on that.
Never got no love from a government man, heading down the street to the living. What I gotta do to get the money, and you got the money, and getting out.
And then Major Lazer was just a really good tune, and it's never really did as much as I kind of wanted it to, in terms of, I don't feel like enough people have heard it yet. It was massive on the internet, but didn't kind of branch out into radio. And I love it as a piece of, and I love it like as a vocal challenge because it is hard. It covers so much ground.
What they've done to me, we could never get free. I just wanna be. Look at me, I just can't believe.
it's impossible not to get nervous when playing, when doing like stuff in front of a lot of people, especially doing it the way that I've done it in the past, which was completely solo. I was probably the only person that was doing it on their own and not looping. There's a couple of big loopers. I love pushing myself to like the absolute limit, and especially when you can really pull people with you. And I think people can kind of feel it if you're doing something that is kind of really hard but also really fun.
Close my eyes. It's you.
Being just one person on stage, and like, I mean, 85 people is just gibberish to look at. You cannot make sense of it. It's just a massive blur. But then with this album, I made the decision quite early on not to tour it solo, because I think that meant that some of the records I made in the past, I didn't go as big as I could have done production-wise, because I was kind of unsure of how to recreate it later. Whereas this album just had no filters at all. We really just, we went, kind of did whatever I wanted to do.
Where you going? Get close, won't let this go. Dream catch me, yeah. Dream catch me when I fall.
And we spent quite a long time writing, so we actually had themed weeks. Like we did like Rock Week, where it was all massive distorted guitars and distorted bass and loads of drums. Like an electronic week, where it was just synths and vocals for a week, and then purely like acoustic guitar week. And kind of just picked the best bits from each. All the albums have sounded pretty different from each other. So the first one to the second one was kind of, again, like a kind of production twist. And I think the second album is quite dark, actually, in terms of subject matter. Then the third one was really, really uplifting and really kind of happy, and did quite well. And then the fourth one was a really interesting experiment.
Spent the world and left the rust. Ooh, hiding from the cold.
And then this album is definitely by far the biggest sounding, definitely in terms of drums. And I mean, it's got this kind of tribal drum sound, which I'm still trying to, I think someone called it tribal folk the other day, which I quite like as a genre.
Together